Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with part 3 of What If Naruto Went Back in Time. So you guys had some really good ideas in the comments for the last part, stuff I would have never thought of, to be honest. So that's why I like asking you guys for ideas, cause looking back at it, it seems so obvious. But yeah, still stick around and see if anything you recommended got put in. And with that out of the way, make sure to do your boy a favor and check out some of the links below, especially the Discord server and the link for some dope anime apparel. So with that said, let's just get right into the what if. So we pick right back up with Team 7 being confronted by the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza, and he said, "Kakashi the copy ninja, and who are these brats you have with you?" And Kakashi said, "It's none of your business," and he throws kunais at him, and Zabuza easily dodges this and he rips his sword out of the tree and jumps down onto the lake. And before he gets into battle, Kakashi tells his team to stay put while he deals with this. So Naruto, he wasn't going to interfere in this since he already knows the outcome of the fight, or at least he's gonna stay out of it for now. So this fight goes almost 1-to-1 with canon. Kakashi ends up having to reveal his Sharingan, which Sasuke is curious about since he knows that only Uchiha have Sharingan, and he knows for sure that Kakashi is not an Uchiha, but he decides to keep this to himself for now because of the fight raging on. So Kakashi is copying perfectly everything Zabuza throws at him, but he ends up getting caught in a water prison. And that's when Sasuke had a plan to use the Demon Wind Shuriken he brought with him. So he explained the plan to Naruto, and when they were ready, Sasuke threw the Demon Wind Shuriken towards Zabuza, and he surprisingly jumped over it. So Sasuke, he was acting all shocked, but this was all a part of their plan. So the shuriken poofed and Naruto appeared and threw another kunai at Zabuza, who had to rip his hand out of the water prison to release the jutsu. So Naruto, he jumped towards Kakashi and brought him back to Tazuna, and Zabuza, he made 5 water clones ready to attack because he was like, these damn kids think they're so smart. But Sasuke, he was ready to rush over to Zabuza to deal some damage. But Naruto held his hand out in front of him and said, "I sense another ninja in the woods watching, so I need you to stay put. And when they appear, catch them off guard." So Sasuke, he nodded, and then Naruto looked towards Zabuza, and then he did a hand sign and started charging his chakra. And blue chakra started swirling around Naruto, but then it turned red. And Naruto's features started to resemble more of a fox. His whiskers became thicker, his nails grew longer, and his hair was getting a lot spikier. So Tazuna and Sakura, they were scared of Zabuza's killing intent, but the Nine-Tails chakra just froze them in place. And Zabuza laughed and said, like, "That's gonna do anything good." But as he said that, Naruto disappeared from his vision and reappeared and kicked him across the water into a tree. And this sent him through one of the trees and slammed into the one behind it. That's how strong that kick was. So the clones try to rush Naruto, but he roars and the shockwave from this dispels the clones. And Naruto, he looks over to the forest and sees Haku, but she's ready to jump out, but she hasn't made any moves yet. So Naruto, he's saying to himself, so it seems he really needs to put Zabuza in danger, like it put his life in danger. So Naruto, he's like, that's easy enough. So what was just his Nine-Tails cloak without any tails started forming tails going up to 2 tails. And Naruto opened his hand and formed a Rasengan, but that wasn't it. He had a clone start infusing wind chakra into it, forming the Rasenshuriken. And Kakashi, he's looking at Naruto and his eyes are wide open. And he's like, is that a complete Rasengan? But not even the 4th Hokage could do that. And Sasuke and Sakura heard this, and this just shows how powerful Naruto was. And he got ready to throw the jutsu, but Haku jumped out and ran at Naruto, but his path was blocked by a massive wall of fire from Sasuke. So Naruto's clone from earlier went to pick up the unconscious Zabuza, and Naruto himself dispelled the Rasenshuriken. So Haku, she wasn't able to see what was going on, so her only choice really was to either risk just running straight through it or running towards Sasuke. But before she could choose, a foot came out of the wall of fire in front of him, and he got kicked in the face, breaking his mask, and Haku got sent flying back. But before he could get up, Naruto held a kunai towards his neck and said, "Surrender and you won't get hurt." And Haku stares at Naruto and said, "I'll stop at nothing to finish my mission." And Haku kicked Naruto off and used this time to throw a lethal poison senbon at Tazuna. But Naruto couldn't stop him in time, and the senbon flew towards Tazuna, and Sasuke reached out trying to grab it, but he was too slow. Until it was like time slowed down for him, and he had a split second to push the senbon out of the way before it hit Tazuna. Naruto looked at Haku and said, "You're lucky," and he neck chopped him, and Haku passed out. So Naruto's clone came out with Zabuza's body slumped over his shoulder, and they brought it to Kakashi, who put a chakra restricting seal on both Zabuza and Haku, and a binding seal so they won't be able to move. So Naruto, he looks at Sasuke, and then he realizes and says, "You activated your Sharingan." And Sasuke, he was shocked as well, and he looked in the reflection of a kunai, and Sasuke, his red eyes was just filled by a single tomoe. And Sasuke, he was excited. He's been waiting for this moment for a long time, and he's finally awakened it. And from the forest, a voice spoke. "You think we should tell Pain? Of course, you numbskull. That kid is something else. We should watch out for him." So we are back with Team 7, and they're continuing on their journey to the land of waves. So they get to a dock where a fisherman there recognizes Tazuna, and he offers him as well as Team 7 a ride over to the town. And of course they accept. So while boating over, the thick fog finally dissipates, revealing the poor and broken down buildings of the land of waves. And Naruto turned to Kakashi and said, "We can't kill Zabuza and Haku." And Kakashi raised an eyebrow and said, "Haku, how do you know his name?" And Naruto, he tries to think of something quick, and he says, "Well, Zabuza, he shouted, 'Haku, help!' You know, didn't you hear?" And Kakashi, he starts thinking back and he can't remember anything like that. But Naruto, he quickly changes the subject and says, "That's not the point. The point is, if we can show these two how life is back in the village, maybe they would want to become a leaf ninja." I'm sure Hiruzen would accept, and Kakashi, he was hesitant, and he said, "The idea, it is pretty far-fetched, but I mean, it is all up to the Hokage, what he decides to do." So as Kakashi says this, the boat driver, captain, helmsman, the fisherman giving them a ride, he says, "We're here." So they climb out of the boat, and before he rows off, he says to Tazuna, "Gato really has done a number on the town. Building this bridge will change literally everything. People can finally have food to eat, clothes to put on their backs, and roofs over their heads. So we need you." And they both nod at each other, and Tazuna started to show Team 7 towards his house. And as they're walking, this malnourished kid bumps into Sakura, and he starts apologizing, and Sakura, she's like, "Oh, it's okay," and rubs his hair, and the kid runs off. Meanwhile, Naruto, he's over there laughing, and a vein appears on Sakura's forehead, and like she puts up her fist and says, "What are you laughing about, Naruto?" And he says, "Oh, nothing. You'll figure it out later." So they get to Tazuna's house, and as they open the door, their noses are greeted to an amazing smell of her cooking, Tazuna's daughter. She comes to the door and hugs her father and thanks Team 7 for bringing him home safe. And they said, it's no problem, they were just doing their job. So she treated the team to a home-cooked meal, and trust me, they were not gonna refuse. Just imagine them eating your favorite meal. And speaking of, comment down below what your favorite meal is in the comments. Mine's shrimp or chicken Alfredo. I could go either way, but they're amazing, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try it. So, after licking the sauces off their plates, Naruto and the others were full, and Tazuna shows their guests to a spare room that they have. And as Sakura is in her room, taking off her ninja pouch and just some gear she brought with her, she's trying to look for her wallet and it's gone. And she starts thinking where she could have lost it, and then she remembers Naruto laughing when the kid bumped into her, and she balled up her fist and said, "That damn Naruto!" And Naruto, he's outside in a tree and he sneezes, and after that decides to head back inside thinking that he might catch a cold or something. So when the next day rolls around, they actually get to train from Kakashi because he didn't exert himself as much as in canon. So he's still able to walk. He isn't in any crutches or sleeping for the entire day. So the team learns water walking and tree walking in the course of 3 days. And by the team, I just mean Sakura and Sasuke, because Naruto, he already knew. So take Sakura's role when they were learning it as the person who already knew it. She was basically did it by within hours. Naruto would replace her because he had an even greater amount of chakra control than her, because Naruto, he has been training for years at this point. So the night before the bridge is slated to be completed, Sasuke catches Naruto out really late at night and he sees him practicing some kind of jutsu. He sees Naruto writing some seals on his kunai and throwing it, but nothing happens. And Sasuke, he's kind of confused because every time Naruto, he would keep changing something, write down something on the kunai, add something, remove something, and just watch Naruto get frustrated every time when nothing happens. And he was about to leave because he just thinks Naruto, he's going crazy or something. But he sees Naruto just lay back on the grass and says, "I wish you were here." But Sasuke doesn't know who he's referring to anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So the next day rolls around and Team 7 is patrolling the bridge, and that's when they see this boat filled with mercenaries with swords, spears, every single weapon you could think of. And Gato, as well as all of them, climbed onto the bridge. And Gato, he walks out in front of all of them and says, "So, I see those two couldn't do their jobs. Oh well, I wasn't gonna pay them anyways." And he snaps his fingers and the entire mob gets ready and he orders them to take care of everyone here. So this horde of these around over 100 mercenaries storm the bridge, and Naruto looks over to Sasuke and said, "Let's use that jutsu we've been working on." And Sasuke, he nods and they both clasped their hands together and said, "Combination jutsu, fire vortex." And Sasuke does a fire style great flame and Naruto does wind style rising wind, and they both came together to create this massive tornado of fire. And when it slowly closed in, everyone would get scorched and cut marks all over their body. And when it dissipated, the mercenaries started dropping like flies. Their bodies were completely charred. And Naruto and Sasuke, they fist bump, and after clearing up all the bodies, the construction of the bridge continued and it was completed by nightfall. So after another night of a home-cooked meal, Team 7 was ready to head back to the village with Zabuza and Haku, who they had been spoon-feeding this entire time, and you could imagine they did not like that. So after saying their goodbyes, Team 7 heads back to the Leaf Village. Editor IzuKage here, and I just realized I forgot Inari, so there's that, but he's not too important, so it doesn't really matter. Let's continue. So Team 7 arrive back at the Leaf Village within a day, and when they do, Kakashi immediately takes Haku and Zabuza to Ibiki to hold them in like a cell until Hiruzen gives any orders. So that's their next stop. The team walks into Hiruzen's office and they see Hiruzen like slumped over on his desk, and at first they thought the worst. They rushed over and started shaking him to check if he was okay, but Hiruzen got up and said, you guys, I was just resting my eyes. How was the mission? And Kakashi, he began to speak and said, we encountered the S-rank shinobi Zabuza Momochi and one of his pupils, but luckily we captured them and they're now in Ibiki's care. But the mission was definitely not C-rank. And Hiruzen thought about it for a second and he was like, yeah, you're right. So he upgrades the mission and their pay to that of a B-rank mission. So Team 7 left the room, but Naruto, he stayed back to say something really quickly. He said, oh, by the way, Hiruzen, try using a shadow clone so you can get some rest. Don't overwork yourself. And with that, he leaves. So Team 7 had 2 days to rest, and during this, they really did nothing. They just chilled and hanged out. But once those were over, Kakashi sent out his Ninken to give each of his students an important message. So on the morning of their 3rd day back from the Land of Waves, Team 7 meets up at the same training ground that they did for the bell test, and Sasuke, he asks Naruto like, you have any idea what this is about? And Naruto, he just shrugs and says, I don't know, I guess we just wait for him to come. And not long after, Kakashi arrives and greets his team, and he says, so you all are wondering why I brought you all out here. Well, the Chunin exams are coming up and I need 2 out of the 3 of you to agree to it. And Sasuke, he just stared blankly at Kakashi. Like, of course we want to go, is that even a question? And both Naruto and Sakura said yes, and Kakashi, he just rubbed the back of his head and said, I was just making sure you guys did, but no, I see you are ready for it. So you have 2 weeks to train before the first stage of the exams. So they all agree and Kakashi body flickers away, and Sasuke is like, I need to ask him to teach me that. But anyways, Sasuke goes over to Naruto and says, so what are you gonna be doing over these 2 weeks? And Naruto, he says, I have a few jutsu I want to learn, how about you? And Sasuke says, are you kidding me? I have an entire library to go through. And he and Naruto had a good laugh. Then Sasuke says, actually, you should ask Kakashi to teach you the Chidori. And Sasuke raised an eyebrow and said, what is that? And Naruto said, just don't worry about it, just go up and ask him, I'm pretty sure he's gonna teach you. So Sasuke, he agrees and the two go about their separate ways. So for the jutsus Naruto will be learning, I kind of want to keep it a bit of a secret. I'm of course going to drop some hints, which I already have done. So hopefully you guys been picking up on those. So on one of his days of training, like within the 2 weeks, Naruto, he's training in his backyard and he falls over like he's been struck by lightning, and Naruto's hair is all spiky and he has some burns on his clothes. And he gets up to go inside to get something to eat, but he hears a knock at the door and Naruto goes to answer it, and it's actually Hinata. And Naruto is shocked to see her here, and he asks, oh, hey Hinata, what do you come all the way out here for? Because remember, Naruto, he lives in the Uchiha compound, which is outside of the Leaf Village itself. So Hinata, she holds down her head and hands Naruto a basket, and he raises an eyebrow and takes it, and she says, Sakura told me you were working hard, so I brought something to keep your energy up. And Naruto looks in the basket and he sees some fresh fruit, some food pills, and best of all, some ramen packages. And Naruto's eyes widen and he says, Hinata, you know me too well. And he drags her into a hug, and when he lets go, Hinata starts slowly backing up and her entire body glows red and she runs off. And Naruto scratches his cheek and thinks, I shouldn't rush anything, she's always been this shy. So Naruto, he pops a food pill and makes a bunch of shadow clones and gets back to his training. So we fast forward to the end of the 2 weeks, and Naruto and Sasuke are ready for the Chunin exam. Well, Sakura as well. Alright, let me stop making Sakura useless. I would say she was actually training with Kurenai, some genjutsu, because that's really the only realistic thing I see her doing, if she wanted to learn anything useful. So the team meets up at the entrance of the academy, and immediately it is blocked by a bunch of genin trying to get through this one door that Chunins are blocking. So they manage to work their way around it, and while going through, Sasuke, he realizes that the sign, that isn't even the door they're supposed to go to, it is a genjutsu. So Sasuke, he tells this to Sakura and Naruto, and they make their way upstairs to the actual entrance for the first stage. So as they reach upstairs and are about to enter the room, Lee challenges Sasuke to a fight. Like, he comes up to them and he challenges Sasuke to a fight. And Sasuke, he just refuses because first off, it's rigged. Like, how can you ban your opponent from using the thing they're good at while allowing yourself to use something that you've trained your entire life at? That just isn't fair. And Sasuke, he doesn't want to reveal anything he has too early on, so he just tells Lee that they can fight in the actual exams. So when Team 7 walks in, they are immediately being stared down by a bunch of Chunins, a bunch of genins from different lands, like the land of grass, of sound, and the leaf village and sand. And they're kind of intimidated, but Naruto at this point, he's used to it, so he just goes to a side and sits down, and his teammates follow him. So while they're waiting, Naruto, he can sense someone just continually staring at him, and that is Gaara and his siblings. Gaara is just staring Naruto down, and he's wondering if he can sense that he's a Jinchuriki as well. But either ways, before he could get any more off that, Ibiki, he enters the room and tells everyone to straighten up because they're ready to start the first stage of the Chunin exams. So they start heading into the actual exam taking room, and everyone gets a seat. Like, they're assigned a specific seat so they're not next to their teammates. And Ibiki, he starts explaining how the first stage is gonna go. It's just a simple hour-long 10-question exam, but the first 9 questions are written, while they'll get the 10th question at the very end. So it doesn't seem too bad, but Ibiki, he says if anyone is caught cheating, they will be sent out and their entire team disqualified. So then that really set everyone up to just not cheat. But when they start, when Ibiki said start, they start going through the questions and pretty quickly realize that these questions are too difficult for an average genin to be able to answer. And some realize that the real objective of this is to cheat but not get caught doing it. So some people come up with really ingenious ways of doing this, Sasuke, he just copied the movements of someone who he sees writing, while others, they use the mirrors in the ceiling to be able to look at other people's papers and write down their answers. So Naruto, he would actually be pretty decent at these questions. He wouldn't be completely clueless like he was in canon, because in this timeline, Naruto actually paid attention in class since from his previous life, he just realized how important some of these information would be. Even the simplest things he learned, they would be the deciding factor in some of the fights he had to come. So after the hour was up, 5 teams were disqualified because they were caught cheating. So after this, Ibiki, he started saying, now it's on to the 10th question. But before I give you the question, you have a chance to leave, because if you get this question wrong, you will be barred from taking the Chunin exams forever. And if you get it right, you get to move on to the second stage. And this dilemma really had some teams thinking if they should really drop out now, because they could just do it next year when they're more prepared. But some of them, actually a lot of them, decided to stay. Only 2 teams decided that they were going to leave. So Ibiki, he asks again, is everyone sure? And no one left. So he's like, okay, well, that was actually a logical deception. There is no 10th question. And everyone, they're like, oh, like everyone just face palmed so hard because they were expecting this big reveal, but then it turned out to be nothing. So everyone is like, oh, come on. But in the middle of this, Anko, she busts through the window, sending glass shards everywhere. And Ibiki, he sees this and he said, Anko, how many times do I have to tell you? We have a door for a reason. And Anko is like, come on, don't be such a buzzkill, Ibiki, come on. And Ibiki, he's like, whatever. So he gathers the papers and walks out. And Anko, she tells everyone to meet her over at the Forest of Death. And Naruto, while he's walking over to the second stage, he's thinking that this is really where everything changed for Sasuke. This is where he got the curse mark and he got that inkling of power from Orochimaru that wanted him to continue. So at any cost, Naruto had to stop him. And that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video, and if you liked it, like, and if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. And I can't understate how much you guys love this series. Whenever I read the comments, there's just so much love and positivity in the comments. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough for this community we've built together. And I don't know just why I went so deep on a random ending to a video. But yeah, honestly, I love you guys. Couldn't replace you with anything. And if you like the video, like, because you can't like the video and not like it. And if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.